The toxic caves are a massive, underground wasteland that must have been created by the excesses of scientific hubris in ages long past. All that remains of this is an extremely hostile environment, home to some equally dangerous hazards and monsters.
Now, in order to find this inhospitable domain of human prowess, you have to undergo the Abyssal Caves Spelunking Procedure. Basically, a long time ago, someone decided that instead of carving out a base inside a cave like any normal Minecraft player on day one, they'll instead just build a house. But underground. In an alternate dimension though, these were built by Poseidon's kin or something, because you can just easily spot these shacks in the ocean instead, making finding them way easier. Inside these shacks, you'll find a barrel with the Abyssal Caves wiki page book, although it's empty when you start off, and some tablets. But how do you fill out the book, you may be wondering? The Spelunking Table. It was only after finishing this segment did I realize the block is called the Spelunkery Table, but I've already said spelunking far too many times for me to go back and change it all, so this bad boy is used to decipher the hieroglyphs embedded within these tablets. In order to crack the code of the Spelunking Table, you have to guess where the word shown to you in English is located within the Tablet of Enchanting table. The hieroglyphs written in standard galactic alphabet do correspond with English letters, so you can use references to your advantage. If you fail all of your attempts, the tablet will break and you will have officially lost Squid Game. If you succeed and find all of the words, you will be granted a Cave Codex, which you can either embed into your soul or whatever's going on here to magically add chapters into the book based on the tablets you deciphered, or make a map like so. Normally it should say the cave's name on the map, but I guess my map is a little shy. It's this part, this little bean, the mitochondria. Let me just fix this. You'll need at least 5 cave tablets to have enough to unlock all 4 of a cave's entries and make a map. Except for the Toxic Caves, which has a secret 5th book entry. Spoiler alert, the secret is so massive that it spans several of the Abyssal Caves, making obtaining it extremely difficult, so watch till the end to see what I mean. Note that the Spelunking Table is not craftable, so make sure to take it with you in case you find a shack that got built too close to lava whose Spelunking Table got burned. Not even kidding. And after a long and arduous journey, welcome to the Toxic Caves, a giant network of caverns covered in Radrock, the stone that rode the toxic gossip train. Get it? Because it's toxic and it's green. It all started with the cutest monster of the Toxic Caves, the Gammaroach. This bad boy is so accustomed to being immortal like its cockroach counterpart that it doesn't even care if you're around. It's just chill like that. However, unlike a cockroach, if you provoke it, it will defend itself by spewing out radioactive gas akin to Axe body spray. If you step into the zone, you'll be inflicted with Irradiated, which prevents natural regeneration from saturation at level 1 and begins slowly doing damage at higher levels. Gammaroaches are not chill towards entities inflicted with Irradiated. They will attack them on sight. If their AI allows it. Do you have a functioning brain? There you go. Anyways, you have now angered the Gammaroach. Not only will it fight back, but it may also build a summoner class within 3 seconds of the fight and carry a hostile mob on its back to help fight you, dealing half a heart of damage to its pet. It's kinda diabolical. Once you kill the summoner, Once you kill the summoner, you get Toxic Paste, which is used as a crafting material. You can also feed it a Spelunky. For some reason, all it seems to do is just give you an advancement. It's probably a reference to WALL-E if I had to guess. What is a Spelunky, you ask? Well, remember how you can't naturally regenerate when inflicted with Irradiated? You still can regenerate health, you just have to eat Spelunkies alongside Slam and Green Soylent, which are crafted like this. Oh wait, I forgot about that. I'll get to that in a second. Note that Green Soylent is not craftable, and the only ways to obtain it are by killing an absolute beast of a mob and accessing certain parts of the Toxic Cave, so keep watching to find out how to obtain the Forbidden Milk. Speaking of forbidden items, you might be wondering, Dima, what's this black powder? That, my dear friend, is the infamous black snow phenomenon in New York. Do not eat it. It will not regenerate your health. I'm just kidding, it's actually yellow. No, I don't mean yellow snow, I mean Sulfur! Sulfur is yet another crafting material found in random deposits. scattered around the toxic caves alongside subscribe buttons that you should definitely press in order to help me reach 100,000 subscribers. We're basically right there if you just round up a little. So if all goes well, I expect to wake up to 1 million tomorrow. That is with some more slight rounding. Now, alongside all of that, you might have noticed these very interesting geothermal vents erected throughout the caves over the course of millions of years of geothermal activity. I mean, look at it. There's even levitating geysers. Well, these vents spew out green gas, which when bottled, give bottle of radon. Note that you can also make your own functional geysers by placing a geothermal vent over a bucket of the cave's acid, which also has a lot more features that I'll get into later. You can also place the vent over lava or water, which just changes the color of the steam coming out of it. Now, the bottles of radon are mainly used alongside sulfur and toxic paste to make polymer plates, an essential crafting ingredient. I mean, just look at how many recipes it's used in. Bottles of radon also have some fun uses like a Siren Light that you can also dye, behold this marvel, and Radon Lamps, which are just colored lights, but unfortunately Minecraft's lighting system sucks, so they all emit the same color unless you're using shaders, which themselves are not compatible with Alex's caves because they override the custom fog and colored atmosphere of the caves. It's a lose-lose situation for everybody. You want to know another crafting material? The most abundant ore across the toxic caves? Uranium. I say that like it has lots of competition, but it's actually the only ore that generates in toxic caves, so like, and what is uranium used for, you may be asking? None other than weapons of mass destruction, of course. Keep this uranium rod in mind, it'll be very important for our endeavor. What the... A case in point. You see, just talking about it, uttering the word uranium makes stuff explode around you. This stuff is crazy. But, this being the toxic caves and all, don't think that we're the only ones in possession of nuclear weapons. This is the toxic cave's second cutest monster, a Nucleeper. The creeper's roided up big sibling. It drops a demon core, I mean a fissile core, that is also very important for our quest towards becoming Death, Destroyer of Worlds. Now, of course, killing the Nucleeper is no easy feat. This thing has 2 rows of hearts, and let's not forget that it's a creeper variant, alright? Don't worry though, because unlike a regular creeper, it takes a while to detonate. However, just keep in mind that if it begins charging up, it will not stop no matter how far away you get. You can tell how close it is to exploding by looking at its head. It kinda starts imitating a hydraulic press YouTube channel, slowly squishing its own head like it's competing against the survivability of a Nokia, and once it reaches pancake status... That's right, there's mushroom clouds. If you're anywhere near the explosion and somehow survive, you will be inflicted with Irradiated 2 for 40 minutes. Meaning you will be taking passive damage for, you guessed it, 40 minutes. Let's fact max. You cannot remove Irradiated by drinking milk. Another fun fact is that you can also create charged Nucleepers. Not sure why you'd want to make one, but yeah, this exists. And it is a lot more powerful. And it also regenerates health, just putting that out there. Speaking of mushroom clouds, how about we get to our first weapon of mass destruction? The nuke. For how easy this thing is to craft, this sure is quite an SMP ender. As you might expect, the nuclear bomb, after about 15 seconds of priming, does quite a bit of damage. If your attention span is too cooked and you can't wait 15 seconds, well, first of all, you're not watching up to this part, but also you can just drop the nuke from a height of at least 20 blocks to instantly detonate it. But Dima, how in tarnation is the attacker gonna survive the blast themselves if they're near the nuke after priming it? You might be asking. Well, good question, because I have a good answer. And no, it's not an Elytra. It's the remote detonator. Just bind this bad boy to the fat man, walk very far away, and then hit the big red button. If you for some reason decide not to do this and instead decide to prime the nuke with flint and steel 5 inches from your face, just know that you can take it back by shearing the nuke, somehow instantly becoming a certified bomb technician, because if you don't do this, you are not gonna survive, and all your stuff will be smithereens. But if you somehow do survive, you will be hit with Irradiated 3 for 40 minutes again. Yeah, I'd say this deserves the top spot of the arms maxing list so far. far. Not only is it a great weapon though, but it's also an amazing mining utility, believe it or not. You can place this fat man at the bottom of a lava lake in the nether and blow it up to dig for ancient debris. It's kind of crazy how effective this is. On top of that, literally, you can sit on the nuke while it's charging to get the secret "We'll Meet Again" advancement. P.S. The remote detonator also works on regular TNT. And now for the second weapon of mass destruction, the Raygun. Straight out of High on Life, this bad boy deals about yay high damage, which I'd say is pretty darn good for a ranged weapon that's not that hard to make. Not only that, but its range is quite Brobdingnagian, for lack of better words, and upkeep is super easy. It has 1000 charge and depletes about 10 charge per second, but only starts depleting after you shoot for 0.75 seconds, which technically means you can do this indefinitely. But it's just not worth it because you die of old age before killing anything. Especially when it's super easy to reload the Raygun. When you run out of charge on the Raygun, you can reload it with a single uranium rod. On top of that, it bestows upon its target the gift of Irradiated. On top of that, it has its own enchantments. Energy efficiency makes it use less energy. Nobody saw this one coming. Solar passively recharges the Raygun when under direct sunlight. X-ray allows the beam to go through blocks and is mutually exclusive with Gamma Ray, which is the Raygun's version of sharpness. It also inflicts Irradiated 5, yes it goes that high, for 40 seconds. Just note that the beam does not pierce through mobs, but it does do AoE damage at the tip. Just imagine the pain you can inflict. I would definitely classify the Raygun under very good in the arms maxing list because of how easy it is to get and maintain, how cool it looks, and how much damage it does. So, that Irradiated 5 might sound a bit intimidating, and intimidated you should be because it will kill you very quickly if you have no armor or toxic caves food, because remember, you can't heal with regular food anymore. I also just don't think anyone wants to walk around with their screen periodically shaking for 40 minutes after having an encounter with something from the toxic caves. So, what if I told you that there is a treatment for Irradiated? That's right, you can either wait it out by eating slam, spelunkies, and green soylents, or you can make a hazmat suit with a bunch of polymer plates. It will negate 25% of damage done by Irradiated per piece until eventually you put on all 4 pieces, which lets you negate 100% of the damage. You may still be inflicted with Irradiated though, but you will no longer take damage from it, so think of the suit as like a vaccine. Hopefully you don't get your health tips from the current US Secretary of Health. The suit also lets you swim in the acid lakes scattered throughout the toxic caves, whereas regular armor will only reduce the damage you take. It won't make you invulnerable, and it will rust and decay incredibly quickly inside of it. Want to become a professional spelunker? Stick to the bottom of acid lakes where mud settles. It's much quicker than swimming and lets you crawl almost as fast as a cave diver with a beautiful wife and 2 children when he hears of the devil's back door of doom and despair. Just a heads up though, because just like the cave diver, you will get stuck in the mud and pressing space won't let you ascend unless you do something about being stuck in said mud. Don't go cave diving. I've gone down rabbit holes deeper than the caves themselves. You do not want to end up on a channel called Fatal Breakdown. Unfortunately though, blocks like copper will end up on a channel called Fatal Breakdown if they come into contact with acid, but as fate may have it, you can also put a hazmat suit, aka wax, on copper to prevent it from oxidizing from acid. On top of that, acid lakes can also convert metal blocks into rusty metal blocks, and these metal blocks can be found in ancient industrial ruins scattered around the toxic caves. They don't have a use besides decoration, except for the metal scaffolding, which is stronger than regular bamboo scaffolding, and metal barrels, which can be used as storage containers and as a crafting material. You can craft all the metal blocks by finding small clusters of metal swarf scattered around the walls of acid lake beds. Smelting metal swarf gives you scrap metal, which is then used for the rest of the metal blocks. Metal Swarf itself is also craftable, but it requires materials from another one of Alex's caves, so make sure to subscribe to not miss that cave's showcase. Acid also deletes any items thrown into it just like lava, but it also dissolves netherite gear, so please don't throw your most prized possessions into the green goop because you will never see them again. This might sound strange, but acid is also a great source of mud. When it comes into contact with water, it will create mud. If it comes into contact with lava, it will create create Radrock, so if you ever get bored enough to try Toxic Cave Skyblock, it's possible. Another interesting thing to note about acid is that just like lava, you can't make an infinite source of it. However, you can just get yourself one acidic Radrock, which is just Radrock infused with a bucket of acid, and repeatedly break it to get infinite acid, since it has a chance of becoming an acid source block when broken. I swear I'm not lying, it does have a slight chance. There you go, first try. Acidic Radrock can also be used to make yourself a sulfur bud farm, since sulfur blocks require acid dripping onto them in order to grow buds. While we're on the topic of acid lakes, let's talk about the third cutest monster in the Toxic Caves, Radgill, which calls the acid lakes its home. Now, on its own, it doesn't do much and doesn't have much nutritional value. If you eat it, you'll become irradiated for either 1 minute 40 seconds or 50 seconds if you cook it, but if you capture it in a bucket, kill it, and feed it to the Toxic Cave's most horrendous creature, the Raycat. Absolutely hideous monstrosity. The Raycat will clear any irradiated that you may have by 1 level at a time every 15 seconds as long as you're nearby. Yeah, that's right. There's more than one counter to irradiated. The Raycat is the milk bucket to your affliction. Thank you, Schrodinger. This will heal Raycats as well. I guess you could call them radio heads. Raycats will also scare off Nucleepers similar to regular cats scaring regular creepers, and if the Nucleeper was charging as it got scared off by a Raycat, it will reverse the charge. I guess there is a way to prevent it from exploding, huh? You can also find Unrefined Waste below the surface of acid lakes, which can be smelted into uranium shards, which are then crafted into, big surprise, regular uranium. Not sure why anyone would ever do this considering uranium is super abundant, but it does make uranium renewable now because you can also make unrefined waste by acid bucketing in the nether. So technically you can use this to make infinite unrefined waste by using the acidic Radrock tactic. Awesome, it didn't take 5 trillion tries this time. As you can see, my skill is improving. If you come into contact with the unrefined waste, you'll get irradiated 1 for over 3 minutes. But that does make sense because, I mean, just look at the thing, it looks like my left nostril during spring. It's also affected by gravity and it breaks on contact with itself along with the usual blocks. Now the actual use for unrefined waste is making waste drums, which can also be found in the industrial ruins scattered throughout the Toxic Caves. These ruins sometimes contain barrels with loot, including but not limited to food, blocks like the waste drums, and cave tablets. Of course, judging by their name, you probably would never have guessed that the waste can do something, but do something it can. Specifically, blow up. When you throw it into anything that deletes an item, it'll explode and leave behind a radioactive cloud that gives irradiated 2 for 8 minutes. Waste drums also pertain to the little secret that spans several of the Alex's caves, so keep that in mind for later. The ruins that we get waste drums from can also contain an incredibly important item, Cinder Bricks. At first glance, these Cinder Bricks may just seem like building block materials, but think about the great applications of a brick in real life. Yeah, so you can throw them at mobs to deal 1.5 hearts of damage, but what you can also do is use them to break soft blocks. Yeah. Take that. This is a great feature. Now, what if I told you that we aren't the only ones that can make use of the stuff found in these ruins? Enter the Toxic Cave's 4th cutest monsters, Brainiacs. So now, Brainiacs are not a force to be reckoned with. There's a reason why I gave them a rainbow border in the transition. If there was a Feed the Beast TCG or something, they'd be a chase card. Albeit with incredibly high pull rates, I must say, because why are there so many of them? These things can honestly be considered mini-bosses because of how many attack patterns they have. Too close? Boom! Get smashed. Big damage and irradiated. Want more attacks? Boom! Bitten by its arm mouth. Big damage and irradiated. Too far? Boom! Get licked and pulled backwards towards it. Big damage and irradiated. The waste drum on his back? Boom! Get dunked. Oh, and if it's under half of its health, it can instead drink from the waste drum to heal and buff itself. This is not a drill. Now imagine 3 of them running at you at the same time. Kind of a big problem. They can also pick up nearby waste drums if they've used the one on their back to do all of that again. This guy is not playing for the vibes. But remember the forbidden milk from a while ago? Well, it has returned. Unlike someone else. Once you kill this mini-boss, it has a chance to drop green Soylent and Charred Remnants, which are used for nuclear sirens. Pretty self-explanatory. They have a 256 block range, so you can very easily annoy your friends by repeatedly placing and shearing a nuke, if you're a sadist. What, just because I gave the idea doesn't mean I would do it. Charred remnants are also used for the nuclear furnace. Now this is where the tech behind the toxic caves shines. By making 8 nuclear furnace components, you can place them in a 2x2x2 cube to create the nuclear furnace. Ah, multi-block structures, my beloved. The nuclear furnace is basically a blast furnace on every drug imaginable, using 1 uranium rod to smelt a stack of metal at the speed of light. It is so powerful, in fact, that you can also smelt gold and iron equipment. Unfortunately, though, this is a video game, so you don't get the full refund. In fact, you only get 1 nugget if you smelt a chest plate that is 1.38% of the full value of the chest plate. That's even worse than buying an NFT in 2021. On top of that, you have to pay the cost of producing waste, which has to be barreled with the metal barrels that I mentioned a while ago, which are crafted like so. If you don't remove the waste, the nuclear furnace will begin to overheat gradually until it becomes a literal sun. Look at this thing. Please help it. And if you don't do your housekeeping job, well, guess what? Also, just a fun fact, you can stand on the inside of the nuclear furnace, and if your intrusive thoughts win, you'll become the Roach King himself with Irradiated 4. But this will only last 1.5 minutes, so be quick when starting your new Twitch channel. Just a final note that I probably should have started the video with, but I'm already this far into the script, and also I thought it would be funny. But having any toxic item like Unrefined Waste, a fissile core, uranium, and all of these things anywhere in your inventory will inflict Irradiated 1 for 1.5 minutes continuously on you until you remove it from your inventory. You know, nothing too important or anything, just a slight hindrance that will prevent you from healing with regular food for your entire stay in these caves. Not a big deal if you ask me. So yeah, get your fashion up. And finally, welcome to the end. That's all there is to the toxic caves, excluding some miscellaneous items for building blocks and whatnot. But don't think I forgot about that secret 5th entry. If you combine some certain crafting materials from some of the other Alex's caves out there, you'll cultivate for yourself the ultimate toxic weapon. Easily the highest tier in the arms maxing list. Watch my other Alex's caves showcases to understand the meaning behind this egg.